I would like to begin by expressing my families affected by tragedy. It is my honor to the Solidarity Movement and African People's Solidarity Committee are hosting throughout the United States under the campaign of the Days in Solidarity with African People, Reparations Now. Please join me in applauding this month's fourth event for the 2016 Days in Solidarity campaign. The Days in Solidarity with African People are events sponsored by the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the organization of white people who work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, or APSP. APSP recognizes that Africans as a people are oppressed wherever they are in the world, whether in the United States, Europe, South America, or on the African continent. Africans inside the U.S. are not treated as citizens, but as a colonized people and the enemy of the state. APSP recognizes that racism is the underpinnings of colonialism, and attacking racism, the ideas in white people's heads, without attacking colonialism and the material conditions of the world in which we live is, as the chairman says, a self-defeating waste of time. White people, we must stand in material solidarity with the African resistance against colonialism, the cause of mass incarceration, the school-to-prison pipeline, stop and frisk, and the murders of Africans by law enforcement and white vigilantes, which are committed less than every 18 hours. The Uhuru Solidarity Movement has been holding Days in Solidarity with African People for over 20 years, based on the political mandate issued by APSP for the Solidarity Movement to build these Days in Solidarity to extend the struggle for white reparations to African people into the belly of the beast of white society and win the white community to the stance of solidarity with African liberation. This year's campaign is more significant than anything that has ever come before it. We are living in an era where African workers from Charlotte to El Cajon have shaken and disturbed the peace on the plantation and pushed the question of the oppression of African people back onto the global agenda 2 generations after the U.S. military destruction of the Black Revolution of the 60s. It is also significant because it occurs at a time when the African People's Socialist Party is growing and expanding its influence and membership internationally. In this campaign, we are touring the chairman and other party leaders, Penny Hess, as well as a very special guest in the form of Kunde Wamvita, the courageous mother of Dominique Battle, one of the 3 teenage African
who have been forcibly dispersed from their land, who have been stolen, who have been kidnapped and enslaved in the Caribbean, in Brazil, in South America, wherever, and here in the United States and in North America, and wherever African people are located around the world. But Africa is the birthright of all African people everywhere. So the African People's Socialist Party is very serious about winning the struggle to liberate and free Africa. Africa has been looted for the last 600 years, and we live in a system that is built on the fact that Europe left Europe, came out of the borders of Europe, and began the assault on Africa in the 1400s, began looting Africa, and began raiding Africa with violence, with cannon, with gun, to kidnap African people, turn African people into commodities for sale, and to steal them and load them on ships and bring them into this hemisphere, into the Americas, into the Caribbean, and North and South America, to labor for free, stolen labor on stolen land. And that it was this, as Chairman Omali Yeshitela informs us and shows us scientifically, that created the capitalist system. This is how capitalism was born, and this is how every white person on the planet Earth lives, with the aspirations of prosperity, of opportunity, of democratic rights, the ability to raise our kids without them being shot down by the police, without them being killed every single day as we see the state doing, to African people in this country and around the world that there's a birthright that white people expect, that white people enjoy, that is in the top 20% of the incomes on this planet, and that this is a result of a pedestal upon which we all sit, on the oppression and on the backs of African, indigenous, and colonized peoples around the world. And so with this understanding, and we're going to talk about this tonight, that the African People's Socialist Party has a strategy to win its liberation. And part of that strategy is to win as many people as possible from the white population to jump off that pedestal, to join in solidarity with the oppressed people on the planet Earth, to work under the leadership of the African Revolution, to go back into the white community, to take this message and to tell the truth about how things got to be the way they are in the world today, and what has been the responsibility of the white population in the complicity with the US government and the governments of Europe, with imperialism, in carrying out the crimes, the terror, and the oppression of African indigenous people here and around the world. That it's our responsibility to look at this truth, to take responsibility for it, and to call for, demand reparations owed by the US government, owed by corporations, and owed by every white person on this planet. That the resources of Africa must go back to African people if we want to see peace on this planet, if we want to see an end to war, if we want to see an end to suffering, an end to a system based on the oppressor and the oppressed, and that this is the future that we as white people can be part of, but we have to pay our dues. We have to do what is necessary to overturn this relationship. This is why the African People's Socialist Party formed the African People's Solidarity Committee. And so, you know, our job is to go into the white community, and a day in solidarity with African people is about bringing out white people to hear this message, and this is what we're doing in Seattle, in Boston, in St. Petersburg, Florida, in Gainesville, Florida. We were just in Oakland, and now we're here in San Diego. And obviously, we have a lot more work to do in the white community, but those of you who are here, I want you to be transformed. I want you to walk out of this door a different person. I want you to be able to be committed to joining, to say that what I've heard tonight, I can't walk away from that. The African People's Solidarity Committee was formed 40 years ago, 1976, this month. And I happened to be there. For whatever quirk of fate, I was there. And when I heard Chairman Omali Yeshitela speak, under whose leadership I've had the honor of working for the last 40 years, I couldn't walk away from that. How can you look at the suffering of how many mothers and fathers whose children have been gunned down, whose lives have been cut short, who have been rounded up into this prison system, this colonial prison system inside the borders of the United States, that can't even see their children. And only because they're African, because white people commit whatever these so-called laws, you know, we violate these laws that is the opinion of the ruling class. But we don't go to prison for that. Look at the situation right now, where suddenly there's this crisis of heroin addiction in the white community. Well, we know that, you know, in the past 40 years, when the US government has been imposing crack cocaine and deadly drugs into the African community as part of crushing down the Black Power movement of the 60s as a way to salt the earth to make sure that African people would never rise up again. We know the US government, this is documented. The US government put the drugs there, and that elicited from this government helicopters flying over, SWAT teams, police violence, all of this as the criminalization of the entire African community. But now we see white people massively addicted to heroin, to opiates, to other kinds of drugs, and oh, we have to understand their plight and how hard it is, and they're not even being imprisoned for this. And so, this is the reality that we have to look at. And so when we look at this, and we look at the situation of our responsibility to win other white people, to go out there and to give this message to the white community and say, if we don't come onto the side of the leadership of the oppressed peoples on the planet Earth, we're going down with this system that the entire world has an interest in pulling down and is working in every way that it can. Because this crisis of imperialism, this economic and political crisis that we see, the fact that the elections, everybody hates both candidates. There's, what is the choice? They're both hated members of the representatives of the ruling class of white power. There's no answer. There's no future. There's no future. This is why white people are drugging and self-medicating ourselves so massively, because we don't see a future, and we can't see a future if our future is on the pedestal of the oppression of the majority of humanity. We can see a future if we overturn our relationship to this system and join in solidarity with the liberation of African people and do our work inside the belly of the beast to deepen this crisis, to help bring it down, to win as many of white people as we can, and to hasten in every way that we can the victory of indigenous people, the victory of African people, Arab people, Asian people, and the people on the planet Earth, to end imperialism and white power that functions in our name. So what we're talking about tonight is something very deep. It's much, much deeper than racism. We're not talking about racism. And you're like, what? We're not talking about racism. Racism, as the chairman says, is an idea. It's an ideology. It's the ideological underpinnings of a parasitic capitalist system, of an imperialism that is built on the oppression of African people and indigenous people and other peoples on the planet Earth. So to sit around and say, well, gee, all I have to do is go to a lecture by Tim Wise and, or go to some kind of unlearning racism session and pay my $600 for the weekend, and I'm going to come out and I'm not going to have racism anymore. So what? So what? You're still going, we're still going to our neighborhood. We still live and, have the same jobs that we've always had. We still have the same income, 22 times the wealth that African people have. And African people are still being gunned down by the police and rounded up into this colonial prison. So it's not racism. Racism keeps us in the center. It's saying that everybody has to revolve around us, whether what we think. What the African People's Socialist Party, what Chairman Omali Yeshitela is defining, is that African people are struggling for political, military, and economic power over their lives, so that if any one of us with a racist idea wants to hurt an African, that we won't be able to do that anymore. It's not going to happen. The system is not going to end that. But to say that, we see the struggle against racism is actually, belief in the status quo of this system of imperialism. Because it's saying that this system can be reformed, that we can make it better, that really, as it came out in the statistic recently, that it would take 228 years for the African community to reach the income and wealth and assets that white people have in this country now. So it's saying, well, if we just wait 228 more years, things are going to be better. But people don't have time for that. People are dying every day. And that we look around the world and we have to go deeper as the white community. We have to look at reality. We can't sit back and say we didn't know. When a child in Cuba or a child in Africa could tell you about what it is the U.S. is doing to them, and they are doing it in our name, and they're doing it with our consent and complicity. And this is what we're charging and what we're doing. We're saying that it's not enough to be here in this beautiful stolen land of San Diego and be a white person that visits a beautiful cultural center like this, or goes to Chicano Park, or studies African dancing, or tries to make our hair, our lassie hair, as they say, go into some kind of dreadlock. No, that's way off what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that in the reality of the United States, there's two existences, and they are tied together. There is the oppressor, and there are the oppressed. And the oppressed are nations of people, not people of color. I mean, isn't that pretty outrageous that we as white people would call others people of color, because we are white and it revolves around us? That robs Africans, indigenous people, of their nationality, that they're not a nation, they're a people of color? No. Chairman gives us so much clarity on this. African internationalism, the political theory of the African People's Socialist Party, just makes it all so clear, not only for African people, but for us too. We can become this. We can begin to see the world through the eyes of the oppressed, through the eyes of everybody else as they experience it. And this is what we're going to have to do if we want to continue and be part of this planet Earth. So the fact is that inside the borders of the United States, there is colonialism. There is a political and economic system that is there in which an entire nation of people participates in the oppression of an oppressed nation, and oppressed nations inside the borders of the United States. And that there is state power that upholds this oppression. There is the power of the state that is not changed by changing an idea inside your head. State power is overturned through revolution, through the uprising of the people, and with a strategy, militarily overturning the power of that state. And I want to say also that before there was the police, before the police existed, we, white people, were the state. We were the state. Who committed the genocide against the indigenous people? In a popular way. Read your history. Read your history about Sand Creek Massacre in Denver, and when a representative of the US government came out and met in the Opera House with all the white citizens of Denver in the 1800s and said, well, what are we going to do about these native people? And all of the white people in that opera house rose up in a yell so loud that it almost brought off the roof. They said, exterminate them. That what happened to the indigenous people, the genocide for which there was no word until the 1940s when white people killed other white people in Europe, but all the time that we as Europeans were slaughtering and murdering and plundering and raping indigenous people, African people, and people around the world, there was no word. It's just what you do. It's just what happens. That it was popular genocide. That the lynchings, the terror, the mutilation, the plunder, the rape, just the torture of Africans by regular white citizens was popular. It was what white people did. It's what we did. You know, on a Saturday night. It had dancing. We put our kids in little starched pinafores, little bows in their hair, and pose them in front of the bodies of slain African men and women. We had grandmothers there, we had mothers there. This is what this country is built on, and it's not something that the US did separate from us. We did it. We were the state. No white person was ever even prosecuted for the lynching of an African. It was legal. It was legal. Genocide was legal. So that we could take the land and we could come here, poor from Europe, poor from Italy, poor from Eastern Europe, from Germany, from Ireland, even places where we were oppressed. But we came here and stepped on the backs of African indigenous people, participated in stealing the land, participating in the terror against the African people, the blood is on our hands. And that in this way, we were able to step up and climb up the ladder of success and experience the streets paved with gold as the United States was known for. We could do this. We could do this at the expense of everybody else and of colonialism all around the world. Because we could tell you as much about what Europe did to India, what Europe did to the Philippines, what Europe did to Vietnam and to Southeast Asia as what we participated in here. It was all over the world. And so we live today in self-imposed isolation from everybody else. No wonder we're paranoid. We have to live on Prozac. We have to live with drugs. We have to medicate ourselves. Because every time, every 18 hours, when another African is gunned down, it's on us. It's because of this system that we uphold every single day. But we have a choice. We have a choice. You know, there's a lot of people in the white community who, they say, well, is this struggle a nonviolent struggle? And I just want to say, first of all, that sitting on the pedestal of the most intense and pervasive, enormous violence that has ever existed on the planet Earth, what it takes for us to have our mortgage, to raise our kids, to send them to college, poverty, starvation, the deaths of hundreds of millions of human beings. And not just in the past, today. Because everything that the U.S. is doing to African people here today is a war of occupation that brings in resources, like the prison economy, that is very important to the U.S. economy, especially here in California, or whatever the U.S. is doing to the people of Syria, Afghanistan, Libya, Iraq, any place else on the planet Earth. All of these things are required for us to have our pension, to have our student loan, to have our 401k, to have our vacation, and to have even just the aspiration for that. So, the question of violence, this system perpetrates violence against African people, against indigenous people, and the people on the planet Earth every single day. And one of the things that we ask white people who, believe that we are so nonviolent, we are so good, we are so reasonable, to say that if you are against violence, then you should be out there protesting at the police department of San Diego and any town you're in every single day. And not just the police department, but the fact that people are starving, they have no food, they have no future. And the African indigenous people, do you see how many homeless people there are, mostly indigenous and African people in this city, living in the tents? We were driving by them. Are we out there? That's violence. That is violence. And that an oppressed people has a right to liberate themselves by any means necessary, to overturn. And I call on you from the white community to support that. You sit on the hot stove. We don't even experience this. We don't even, it's not even in our consciousness. It's just like when what we did to African indigenous people, the peoples didn't have words for what we did to them and do to them. That wasn't in their vocabulary. But the reality of what an oppressed and colonized person, family, lives and experiences inside the borders of the United States and around the world is violence beyond comprehension of what the white community has ever experienced. But we've doled it out, but we're saying don't be violent in overturning this. Well, there's no way that the military, the largest military on the planet Earth, is going to dismantle itself because of some idea or something, or some protest that somebody does. So, the struggle is against colonialism. We are the colonizing nation. We are the colonizers. This informs doesn't mean we're all rich. I'm not saying we're the 1%. We have a lot of different contradictions inside of the white society. But the fact is that we've always sought our rights at the expense of African people and everybody else. Just look at one example. Betty Shelby. You know who she is? She's the white cop that killed Terrence Crutcher in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A lot of white women fought for the right for white women to be part of the police department so that we could share equally in gunning down African people, just like the whole struggle for gays in the military so that we could be part of equally murdering Iraqi people and people in Afghanistan and other places on the planet Earth. No, this era is over because we live in a time of the uprising of oppressed people, taking back what's theirs. They see the resources here, hoarded here, while they are dying, while they are being slaughtered, and they're taking them back, and the U.S. is in a crisis because it can't just go wherever it wants to go with impunity anymore. It has to pay a price, and that's what we see in this whole election situation, in the fact that Obama has gone into, continues to almost have permanent war that we see right now, that we have to look at this period and take a stand and join with the rest of humanity and do our part in bringing down the system from within. I want to say that the African People's Socialist Party is not about a demonstration. Yes, in 40 years I've been to many, many, many demonstrations led by the African People's Socialist Party, but that's not what it's about. It's about gaining power. It's about winning the liberation of a whole people. It's a revolutionary struggle. And it's saying that in order to do that, there has to be an economic infrastructure of the Black African Revolution. A revolution isn't waiting for ideas. And the African People's Socialist Party has a program, has a front of its movement that's called Black Star Industries. And Black Star Industries are the institutions like Uhuru Foods and Pies, Uhuru Furniture Stores, Burning Spear Media, Burning Spear Publications, and so many other things that represent the economic infrastructure of the revolution. And so when we call for reparations, and at least $14.1 trillion in reparations is owed to African people inside for stolen labor inside the borders of the United States alone. And that money needs to go to Black Star Industries so that African people can win their revolutions, so that they can have their land, but also all the value of their stolen labor, of their stolen resources, and Africa continues to be looted day by day for our benefit. Coltan, all these minerals that are totally critical for computers, for cell phones, all of that is coming out of Africa and so much more. African people own those resources and own that land, and that is their birthright, and we uphold that. So we're calling on white people, on Europeans, Euro-Americans, whatever we want to call ourselves. We want you to join tonight. We want you to be part of this. This is the future. This is a way that we can end our isolation, our self-imposed isolation from everybody else on the planet, that we can join in humanity and rectify our relationship to African people, to indigenous people, not by unlearning racism, but by participating in a strategic front of the African Revolution that will bring down imperialism, and we do our part to unleash those stolen resources and hand them back over to African people, to indigenous people. This is the future. This is the future in which the planet can be healthy, because imperialism that murdered hundreds of millions of people doesn't give a damn about the environment, about the methane gas, or anything else. But in fact, when indigenous people had this land, there wasn't that problem. There were whales, the environment was beautiful. And the same with Africans when they had power over their lives. So we have to be part of changing the world. And this is our opportunity given to us by the African Revolution that gives us our humanity for the first time in history and lets us be part of the future in which all human beings can live, no one at the expense of anyone else. Uhuru! Reparations now! Reparations now! Uhuru!
Reparations now! Uhuru! Thank you, Chairwoman Penny Hess. As she said, it's much, much deeper than racism. Racism keeps white people in the center, making everything about our feelings and our thoughts, not about material conditions. We have to go deeper, and we have to face reality. Thank you, Chairwoman Penny Hess. Let's give her another round of applause. Next in our program is a special cultural performance by Kevin Cash and Sin Kay.
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I hear you.
Alright, cool.
Okay.
How y'all doing out there? Everybody good?
How we feeling today on this Sunday? Y'all doing all right? I don't hear everybody in this room. I said, y'all doing all right? All right.
Yeah, that sound a little bit better. That sound a little bit better. Like y'all alive to me. Let me introduce myself real quick. Sorry about that. I'm playing DJ as well. But I go by the name of Kevin Cash.
I go by the name of Sid Q.
How y'all doing? Yeah, but together we're collectively known as Kings. That's an acronym, KYNG. It stands for Know Yourself and Never Give. Never give in another sense, in a different sense of like never give up, never give in, never, never pay attention to all of the negativity that's going on. I have something real dear to my heart that I would like to perform for y'all. Bro, if you could push play for me.
Gotcha.
The song's called Theology, and it's all about, I guess, some of my views on life. Just push play. 5, 6, 8, 3.
Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Hey, look, I'm not that religious, but I know there's something greater. There's beauty all around me, there has to be a creator. Remember going into being aviator, and this black boy fly, but didn't die to be his maker. Pistol whip the person that said you had to be perfect. More than likely not a person, but instead a serpent. Mad that you turned up, your energy be surplus, and they can't handle it cause they ain't figured out they purpose. I don't know about your circus, but my mind is like a circus. Body always shirtless, yet the soul is not for purchase. Attended every sermon, but what is it that we worship? I would take they ass to church if I knew what a church is. Forgive me, I'm hotter than the furnace, am I living in hell? Losing off potentially the dead or in jail. It's really hard to see a contrast, my hood can't tell the differences between the college dorm and prison cells. Almost too distracted, needed relocation. My high school was across the street from a police station. They always couple slavery with education. It's time that this knowledge meant for some liberation. Hey, I'm not religious, but I know that there's a God. Believe it every time we take a look at hip hop. Close your eyes, bow your head, and we just nod. And it's time to reintroduce you to your God. Say, I'm not that religious, but I know that there's a God. Believe it every time we take a look at him. Close your eyes, bow your head, people just nod. And it's time to reintroduce you to your God. This is destiny, baby. Never give in to the death of me, baby. I'm not that religious, but I know that there's an answer. House canary monster, I was scared of breast cancer. Back in melanin, the spirit's blacker than a panther. And when he needed love the most, he placed him next to Amber. Time to make up for the memories we missed. Almost 22, but just now learning to exist. Never give it, I had this energy to persist. And if the Bible's right, I just like you from the system. Know what you was getting, but my living is a gift. I'm this little mixed kid with some tattoos and these tears stand. You can try to judge, but I think that's kinda weird. When you looking in the mirror, are you feeling counterfeit? It's a whole world of niggas hypocrite. I done studied all they moves, I've been watching how that shit still amaze me when one does their homework, but they can predict. Hey, this I can admit, it ain't all we're told, because the destiny is similar to open roads. The perfect plan is we'll never know what comes next after life or even tomorrow. Hey, I'm gonna stop the preaching and focus on what I didn't. Lead by an example of balance for all the children. Take it to myself, cause I always value the real shit, and I'ma always turn up, so I know that they gon' feel it. I'm not that religious, but I know that there's a God. Believe it every time we take a look at hip hop. Close your eyes, like your head, people just nod, and it's time to reintroduce you to your job. I'm not that religious, but I know that there's a God. Believe it every time we take a look at hip hop. Close your eyes, like your head, people just nod, and it's time to reintroduce you to your job. This is destiny, baby. Never giving to the death of me. Hey, baby. Yeah. Okay. Close your eyes, like your head, people just nod. I need to give everybody close your eyes, like your head, people just nod. When I say no, y'all say sell. No, y'all say no, you not. When I say never, y'all say give. Never. When I say no yourself, y'all say never give. No yourself. No yourself. When I say here, y'all say high. Here. Okay. Yeah. Hey, I'm rocking with y'all. That was super. Hey, shout out to Kevin Cash, man. If y'all want to see the video of that song, yeah. You can search it up on YouTube. Kevin Cash, that's with a K, 2 Ks and a $sign. That song is called Theology. Theology. Yo, and next up we got this song called Lifetime. It's all about reincarnation. We're not gonna waste no time. We're just gonna get into it. And my verse is kind of inspired by a new movie that's out, Birth of a Nation. Check it out. Thank you. Yeah. My turn. Hey. I woke up in a new lifetime. I was kicking and screaming. Terrestrial living is so complicated. It made me nostalgic of when time was sacred. I woke up in a new lifetime. Couldn't believe my eyes, bro. Could've swore that I went to sleep last night as a scribe in medieval Ghana. Talking like a 10th century. Dogs wearing collars made of gold. Black horses wearing silk. Activating now to contemporary post-grad. Trying to see more than 5 minutes zip code. Travel of a habit, a homebody naturally. A pacifist Roman casualties, walking contradiction. Inherent, I'm seeing through millennium to come. With the territory swing, with the time. Grandfather clocks take count mine. Have an ace to the side, man, inside my mind. I woke up, the timeline was frozen around me. I'm on my 3rd reincarnation and counting. Hallucinating, I'm seeing the truth. Which one? The Hindus say the world is an illusion. The Temptations call it a ball of confusion. And when I go to sleep at night, I hope I get to choose one. Cause I woke up in a new lifetime. Said I woke up in a new lifetime. Now just imagine if I spoke about the future. Oh man, said I woke up in a new lifetime. And put your hands in the air, sing it with me one time. Cause I woke up in a new lifetime. Said I woke up in a new lifetime. Woke up in a new lifetime. With my head hit the pillow. I could've swore I was a king. My eyes got split. I couldn't remember shit. Got called a bunch of niggas hoping that it was a dream, but really was one of my worst nightmares. I understand. I'm thinking insurrection. Took one peek at my brothers and my sisters. Looking kinda lost and could use some direction. Violence is always the last resort, but for enough, I'm about to bring murder back. Killing supremacy, promoting power to people revolting. I'm turning that or that turned into a bad burn. Because your navigation's nigga on the run. Aiming at the juggler, I know they want me hung. Like urging with the demon, I'm rebellion of love. I be having flashbacks of a Black Panther torn between the movement and the one he loved. Every night a black jacket, black beret, sawed off Mossberg and a pair of black gloves. Patrolling the police because they really the thugs. Keep them adults of exactly how they look at us. Hold myself back because I wanna go to the club. Stacking my jeans because you telling me pull them up. A whole lot deeper than these things that outlast me. And anything that you can think with your medulla, your medulla. A lot higher than these things that outlast me. Just imagine if we think about the future cause I woke up in a new lifetime. Put your hands in the air, sing it with me one time. I woke up in a new lifetime. Imagine if we think about the future all night. Yeah. And just imagine if we speak about the future. Yeah, that's scary, because you know what? You won't be done without the phone on your computer, y'all. Yeah, you enjoy that one, make it going. Word up. Thank you very much.
Uhuru, Freedom, and African People Solidarity Movement for having us. Thank you, Wendy, for bringing me out. Star, thank you, all of y'all. World Peace Center for having this. This is very necessary, very vital for everyone to collect this information and educate themselves. Make sure that you continue to do that, as I will as well, and it's all love. Thank you.
I say, appreciate it, y'all.
Thank you, Kings. Let's give another hand. Thank you again. And now, it is my honor to bring to the podium. Thank you. Awesome. It is my honor to bring to the podium our keynote speaker for this evening, the revolutionary leader without whose vision, theoretical worldview, and strategy to win revolution in his lifetime, none of us would be here today. The founder and leader of the Uhuru movement, who provides leadership for the entire world revolutionary struggle, the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, Omali Yeshitela.
Express my appreciation to the African People's Solidarity Committee and the Uhuru Solidarity Movement for continuing this process of building for the days in solidarity with African people. It's already been stated that the important thing about this days in solidarity with African people is an effort to win actually white people, North Americans, from their self-imposed isolation from the rest of the world, and also to call on white people to assume your responsibility. The fact is that Africans have been enslaved, worked for white people, white power, since our introduction, hostile introduction to each other. And I think it's really important for this to happen. We have to attack this unity among the peoples around the world, and the fundamental problem with the unity of the peoples of the world stands for white people everywhere. That's just an objective truth. So I just think it's really important that the African People's Solidarity Committee, Uhuru Solidarity Movement, gives North Americans, Europeans, white people an opportunity to break out of that isolation and to unite with the rest of the people who are fighting to try to win our freedom and take back our resources that have been ripped from us and that's responsible for our suffering every day. I also want to say that while this Days in Solidarity with African People is something that's been organized primarily to allow white people, Europeans, North Americans an opportunity to express that solidarity, to participate in that solidarity, we can't ignore the fact that here we are on Mexican territory, Mexican land. And I am in occupied Mexico even as we have this discussion. I think it's very important to acknowledge that and more. And I want to express deep appreciation to Union de Barrio, an organization with which we've had more than a 30-year relationship. And that's longer than most old people stay married. It's been an extremely important, critical, strategic relationship. I want to say that the first time I came to San Diego was as a consequence of Union de Barrio, who brought us in here. And Comrade Ernesto Bustillo, who is one of the great unspoken revolutionary leaders of this century. And I want to and I do not say this easily or casually. It is something that we believe in a very serious way, that what Ernesto Bustillo has done and Union de Barrio by making this relationship has created a profound problem for our oppressors. The unity of the African and Mexican people is going to be critical in terms of defeating our enemies and winning the freedom and liberation of our people and taking back our resources. I want to express also my appreciation and solidarity with the family of Comrade Compañero Ernesto Bustillo for sharing him with us for the time we had access to him. And I want to also make a special statement of appreciation to Compañera Kathy. I always mess up your name, Compañera Kathy and Monica, who are responsible for my being able to share the very last moments of life with Compañero Ernesto Bustillo. I thank you so much for giving me that honor and that opportunity. Uhuru. There are many people who are now coming to political life, right now, at this very moment. Within the last couple of years, they've been made excited by events that's happening in the world. And in the African community, one of the things that's led to this excitement, to this coming to consciousness in the recent period was the August 9th, 2014 murder of Mike Brown and the incredible resistance by those young African workers in Ferguson on Canfield Drive. This was an extraordinary event because, as most people know, police have been killing African people with impunity throughout this country. And nothing meaningful had been happening as a consequence of that. And Africans were being extremely demoralized by the fact that somebody can come to your community, can kill your mother, kill your child, kill your father, and nothing happens as a consequence of that. And then those young African people in Ferguson, because it wasn't the death, the murder of Mike Brown that changed things, it was the resistance, it was the response by young African working class. Was no professors, was no lawyers, was no big shots. It was the working class, young people who are always getting harassed by their pants sagging or any other kinds of things, who have to live on a daily basis with a police presence. Those are the ones who rose up. And when they rose up, they didn't say, hands up, don't shoot. They didn't say, Black Lives Matter. The thing that took me to Ferguson was, I read in the newspaper, they were saying, kill the police. What? They were saying, kill the police. It was a logical response to the kind of terror and oppression that Africans and other colonized people here and around the world experience on a daily basis. And so that was something, and it ignited the imagination. It raised the morale of black people throughout this country to force the United States government to show its hand to people who don't live in our community, who've never seen the tanks before, who've never seen the military equipment that they have for us. And the whole world now sees the United States acting in the United States itself, just as it's acting in Afghanistan, just as it's acting in Iraq. And the reason it's acting in Ferguson, Missouri, inside the United States, just like it acts in Afghanistan and Iraq, because it's dealing with colonized people in this country, just like it's dealing with the occupied and colonized people in the Middle East. And so it showed its hands. It was an exciting thing, and Africans throughout this country became mobilized, and some of them participated in hijacking a movement, because the young people, working class people, were more advanced than the people who came up with their hashtags. They were more advanced. If you remember, some of you won't remember, but you've seen the videos. The Black Panther Party, the only thing that they were saying in Ferguson is what the Panthers used to have us off the pig. That's what they were saying. And they were saying that because of what the police do in our community, it is a normal response to people who are being killed to want to fight back. And if you're not fighting back, if you're being confronted on a daily basis by people with guns who come into your community and can choke you to death, can shoot you down, etc., then that's something abnormal. Something is wrong with you. But that's what's required of African people. We are required to make stupid statements like when a white man goes into a church and kills 9 people who are praying. It's required of us to say that we forgive them. It's required of us to say that all police are not bad. This is silliness. And so we saw people coming to consciousness as a consequence of this happening inside our communities. And now we have discussions with Africans today about things that they weren't even interested in, willing to talk about 3 years ago. About what it is to be a black man, and what it is to be a black woman, what it is to be in Africa. Now people want to hold that discussion as a consequence of what those young people did. And so we see a lot of activity happening. We see people who are blocking interstates, who are excitedly carrying out other kinds of activities. But I want to make a distinction about who we are as the African People's Socialist Party and what it is that we are talking about when we say solidarity with the African revolution, the African liberation, the African people in this country. Because we're not just talking about blocking an interstate. As exciting as that might be, as much adrenaline as it may pump, we're not talking about that. We in the African People's Socialist Party are a revolutionary organization. We've been a revolutionary organization for the 44 years of our existence. We were here before August 9, 2014. We've been involved in the struggle to actually complete the Black Revolution of the 60s. And we say complete the Black Revolution of the 60s because it was a revolution that was crushed. That's what the assassination of Malcolm X was about. That's what the assassination of Martin Luther King was about. That's what the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana was about. That's what the murder of Patrice Lumumba in Congo was about. That's what the capture and then assassination of a wounded Che Guevara on August 9, 1967 was about. It was an assault on a revolutionary movement. It was a part of a worldwide counterinsurgency that was made against us to keep us from fighting for our freedom, from taking back our freedom. And so, well, we have a lot of people now who are interested in blocking interstates and talking about how, whether or not we should support Hillary Clinton or whether or not Trump is a bad guy or a good guy, and they're missing the boat altogether. And I just want to say a few things about that. Because if you look around the world, what we are looking at is a state of permanent warfare. It's hard to look any place in the globe where the United States government is not murdering, maiming peoples, whether it's Yemen, whether it's in Afghanistan, whether it's indirectly in occupied Palestine, where U.S. weapons, U.S.-funded white people who conveniently Jews are murdering the Palestinian people. Whether it's in Venezuela, where the U.S. government, as a consequence of manipulating petroleum prices to starving the people in Venezuela and then isolating them economically so they can feed for themselves, so they can win the people to destroying that government that has done more for people in States government is doing. There's war everywhere. There's war everywhere. And everywhere you see the United States government making war, you see what would otherwise be constituted as criminal activity, except the criminals are the ones who make the law, and therefore it is not criminal activity as far as they are concerned. So, what brings us to this situation? What brings us to the situation where we look at African people catching the hell that we catch? I'm in San Diego. I've been in and out of San Diego for 30 years now. And I'm struck by the fact that I went to eat at a real hip place last night. And, but the first time I came to that area, Ernesto was still lived right around the corner from that place. It was a very white place that has been gentrified. I hardly saw any Mexicans except Uno de Barrio who went there with me. It is a very white place. I was near Chicano Park, and I see the gentrification and the whitenization of that area. And that's a startling statement about the affairs of the situation that helps me to understand that the revolution is not going to stay in Afghanistan. It's not going to remain isolated to places like Palestine. But the revolution definitely is going to have to visit this territory that we live on right now. And that's part of what my responsibility is, to build a revolution, to build a revolutionary movement. So I'm a revolutionary. And the African People's Socialist Party is a revolutionary organization. So when we talk about solidarity, what we are asking people to be able to do is to unite with the aspirations of African people to be self-governing, self-determining people just like everybody else. We have to have the ability to feed, clothe, and house ourselves. We have to have the ability to have access to our own resources. We want everything that's been taken from us back. We have to be able to live. All this nonsense about having to wait one day and then catch up with white people in my ass. My ass. You don't have an explanation. You don't have an explanation that's good enough for me to tell me why my child can't have everything that your child has, especially since what your child has come as a consequence of stealing from my child. You don't have an explanation. You can't give me an explanation for that. There is no good explanation. Don't tell me the damn thing about they don't have education now, that they take drugs. When we got here, we didn't have to have we didn't have to take a test, pee in a bottle, or anything. You just put us right to work. So we want everything. We want every damn thing. Everything. I'm going to be clear on that. I'm not talking about a little bit. I'm talking about everything. We want it all. We want it all. Now, so let's look at this situation. Because I'm sure that like Africans, Mexicans, and other people have had to look around the world. And when I grew up looking around the world, every place I looked, I saw people who looked like me, who were starving, who had ignorance imposed on us, violence imposed on us everywhere. There was no place in the world I could look where I looked at a black person and we weren't catching hell. We weren't living on the worst kinds of conditions. State of nakedness, state of total disrepair. That was the life of black people everywhere. It was accepted as the norm for black people. And yet every place I looked in the world, every magazine, every book I opened, and I could read since I was a toddler, I saw white people who were living well. And the explanations that we got for this, and we had to have an explanation. The explanation that we got is that white people were so much better off because white people were more civilized than we. That white people have a closer proximity to Christianity than we did. And this was the story that I had to live with, that every living colonized human being on the planet Earth is confronted with, wherever you are. If you're an African Mexican, this is the story that you get. The reason that the white people got everything and you don't have anything is because white people are smarter, white people are more civilized, white people are thrifty, they don't waste their money, etc., etc., etc. So if you want then an one of those with that definition, to be successful, then you got to do what? Be like white people. You got to learn how to talk like white people. You got to learn how to walk like white people. You got to learn how to act like white people, etc. And you got to believe all the BS that white people tell you. So this is the explanation that we got. This is the burden. That's a hell of a burden for somebody to grow up with. And of course, it took a while for me to understand, of course, that that's not true at all. That our state of existence has nothing to do with the superiority, intellectually, morally, otherwise of white people. That when we met white people, indigenous peoples in these lands, African people around the world, that white people existed in a state of what they call feudalism. You with me on that? Feudalism. They tell us that white people had this surplus of civilization that they had to spread, and Christianity did spread around the world. White people didn't have a surplus of nothing. They lived under feudalism. Feudalism is the next closest thing to slavery. Feudalism, they weren't sold like people that they did to us when they captured us and sold us, but if they lived on the land, they were tied to the land. If the land got sold, they went with the land. And what they earned on the land, what they created, they kept a little bit for themselves, and the landlord, the nobility, got the majority of it. They had nothing. This whole notion about a man's home is his castle, not then, not for white people. Only castles were the ones that the nobility lived in. That was the reality when we met Europeans. On top of it, and feudalism lasted for almost 1,000 years. So you have white people in such a state of destitution that in some places they actually live in a state of nakedness. This is the literal truth. And on top of that, during this period, in the period of 1347 and 1351, 52, half the white people on the planet Earth died. Did you know that? Half the white people on Earth died in a 4-year period because of what they call a plague. It was devastating. There's no way in hell that anybody, where you have a situation where half the people die in a period of 4 years, that you have anything like a viable economy. There's no way in hell. And how Europe, of course, rescued itself. What we now call Europe, because there was no such thing as Europe at that time. What we're looking at during the era of feudalism, what we had was the majority of people who lived in this territory that we now call Europe, identified and defined themselves primarily in relationship to each other. What's no European nation? It was the Goths, it was the Celts, it was the Normans, etc., and who were in constant warfare with each other. They defined themselves in relationship to each other. What changed that was slavery. What changed that was colonialism. It was slavery and colonialism, and white people rescuing themselves by striking out from a starving, impoverished Europe, and then going to the Americas, going to Africa, going to Asia on looting, cruel looting expeditions. And this is the process that now creates a situation where people who now call themselves Europeans identify themselves as a collective, and they are defined primarily in opposition to the rest of us. This is where their identity comes from. And so, this is the emergence of an entirely different kind of situation. The whole planet Earth is now changing as a consequence of these people who left this feudal existence, who thrust out of Europe because of poverty and oppression, etc., who come to now what is referred to as Americas, go to Africa, etc. This is the part of the process of changing the world. Because now what you find is that white people are not located in a tiny place that they refer to as Europe. And they pretentiously call a continent. Isn't that great pretentious to call this thing a continent, everything? So now, you have a situation where tremendous amounts, you see, the people are not confined there. They're in places like Australia. They're in places like this land, right here. They're in places in Africa. They're in places, Canada. They're all over the world. They're in New Zealand, all these other places, and they were chased to these places by poverty and disease. The same thing that chases us out of Haiti. Now that they have starved Haiti and brutalized Haiti, that chases us out of Haiti, getting the hell out of Haiti to try to get to our resources. That's what chased Europeans out of Europe. That's what chased them out of there. That's what brought them here. That's what brought them to all these other places where resources were located. And in the process of doing that, a whole new social system gets born at our expense. And they call this system capitalism. And it's something that we need to understand. Because otherwise people will have us believe that capitalism was something that was brought to white people because they, as George Bush would say, were so good. But capitalism is a consequence of what Karl Marx referred to as the primitive accumulation of capital. The accumulation of capital that did not come about as a consequence of capitalist production, but was the starting point for capitalist production. And this starting point was turning Africa into a warren for the commercial hunting of black skins. This is Marx saying this. Marx is a white guy who said this. He talked about how the starting point was the war that was made by England against China, 1841-42. Because England wanted China to trade tea with England for opium. And the Chinese said, we don't want your damn opium, go home. And England fought a war that was called the Opium War. 1841-42 forced China to take dope and turn China into an entire nation of junkies. England did that. And that's how they began to accumulate the capital that was a part of the capitalist accumulation. France killed Vietnam for more than 100 years. And most of the resources, the colonial resources coming out of Vietnam to France was in the form of opium, drugs. There were more than 3,000 legal opium dens in Vietnam under French domination. This is what took resources into France. And then, of course, our Africa. Because one of the things that was fundamental to the creation of the capitalist system was the emergence of a world economy. People had traded with each other long before the white man discovered fire. But there was no world economy that connected the entire world together. It was the trading black people. They called it the triangle of trade that created this world economy that was a precondition for the rise of capitalism. And so you have the emergence of capitalism. You have the theft of this land. You look at all of what you look at in South America, when you look at a Cuba, when you look at a Puerto Rico, you look at a Peru and all these other places, part of the reasons for their existence is slavery. Colonialism created those places. And then they divided up Africa. Because the looting expedition was so great, Africa was so great, that Europeans were constantly at war, fighting or threatening to fight each other to see who was going to get the loot. And so they had made a deal in 1884. They had a conference. The white peoples of the world had a conference in Berlin, Germany. This is not one of those conspiracy things like the Bilderbergs or whoever the hell that was. But in 1884-85, in Berlin, Germany, Europeans got together at the Berlin conference and said, look, we don't have to fight just like the mafia. We don't have to fight over it, let's carve it up now. And they shared Africa out to different European powers. You look at the map of Africa today, you see these borders and these so-called countries. You're looking at something that was created by Europe, not by Africans. Those borders did not exist. Those borders did not exist. This was a part of the process of the But it didn't just create the capitalist economy. What it did was when they carved up Africa the way they did and dispersed Africa, the African nation, around the world, they created false national consciousness among African people. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm in Africa frequently. And when I'm in Africa, one of the striking things is that many Africans on the continent do not understand that they got cousins, brothers, relatives who are here. And that part of the reason we catching hell on the continent of Africa is because a whole mass of African people have been strewn all around the world working for white power instead of working for Africa. And we have a false national consciousness. Don't even know who the hell we are. And you can't get on a boat in Africa, brothers and sisters, as an African, and then get off the same damn boat as a Negro. If we were Africans when we got on the boat in Africa when they captured us, then we were Africans when we got off the boat as well. We were Africans then, we are Africans now. But if you don't know who you are, then you can't fight for what belongs to you. And if your brothers and sisters who are at home don't know that you are they are the same, then they can't fight for you either. And so you have Africans who will leave the continent of Africa because it's dangerous and problematic in the continent of Africa because of what Europe and the United States does all the time there. They will leave Africa coming to the United States looking for a better way of life. And the only way they can do that, the only reason they can do that is they don't know what the hell America has done to the Africans who've been here for 400 years. You can't have a better way of life here. And even if it were possible for Africans to have a better way of life in this country, it's a way of life that will have to come at the expense of the Mexican people. The United States stole half of Mexico. It will have to come at the expense of the indigenous people who are living in concentration camps that they call Indian reservations. So we're not a part of that. We want you to be in solidarity with a revolutionary movement. It's not a movement to make you like us. It's a movement to get power to the people. It's a movement to get power to the people. It's a movement against capitalism. Because capitalism was born at the expense of Africa and the indigenous and oppressed peoples around the world. That for us to be genuine and free, capitalism must be destroyed. We must wipe it off the planet Earth. It's got to go. It's got to go. And about that, there can't be any compromise around that question. This is what we ask you to be in solidarity with. I just want to be clear. We're not running around saying hands up, don't shoot. Black Lives Matter. We tell you Black Lives Matter about what we do in the world. We're not making some political plea to those who control us. We are preparing to govern. We are a revolutionary political party. That means that our objective is to seize and wield political power. That means that everything that we do, every institution we create, is for the purpose of getting ready to govern ourselves. We are a party. We are a political party that is determined that nobody else shall ever decide the future of our children except us, that we will be a self-governing people and we will not share that power with anybody. That's what we are. That's what we are. And we ask you to unite with that. That's an easy thing to unite with. Because I'm standing hip to hip with the Mexican people. Because that damn border is coming down. And we're going to restore it from both sides. Don't you know? I'm talking about making a revolution. You mess around trying to protect this thing. I'm not talking about some kind of Bernie Sanders socialism. I'm talking about the real accord. And when I say that border's coming down, it's because I intend to build a revolution in this country. And there's no way in hell that an African revolution can be unleashed in this country and it not affect what the hell is going on in Mexico. I tell you, And one fundamental objective of the African Revolution has to be to liberate and unite Africa and African people under the revolutionary leadership of the African working class. That's what has to happen. That's my objective. That's why we have organization in Kenya. That's why we have organization in South Africa right now as we have this discussion. That's why we have organization in Sierra Leone. That's why we have organization in Sweden. That's why we have organization in France. That's why we have organization in Bahamas. That's why we have organization in England. That's why we have organization that we are building for African revolutionary all around the world, so that we are fighting imperialism on every front. There's no place that it should be able to hide, and if we are successful, it won't hide anywhere anymore. So that's what it is that we are about. We're making a revolution. And I just want to say this finally, that the people around the world are demanding freedom. And the problem for U.S. and European imperialism is that everything they got requires on this parasitic relationship they have with us. They got Mexico, they got Africa, they got African people, they've had Afghanistan. I was talking with a comrade yesterday who's from Syria. And it's really, you talk about Syria. Syria was designed by the French and the British. And you look at places, Iraq and Lebanon, all the white people got together and drew those maps and created them. And all of this stuff, this is what created the economic and political structures that benefit Europe, this parasitic transmission of resources, lives, that go to Europe at our expense, at the expense of the people in Syria, the expense of the people in the Middle East, the expense of people right here in San Diego, San Isidro, the expense of Africans and oppressed people around the world. We want it back. We can't live like this. We live in a world today, sisters and brothers and compas, where 80% of the people on the planet Earth try to survive of 10 or US dollars or less. Think about that. Because people want to tell me about the 1%. I am the 99%, they say. We are the 99%. No. 80% of the people on Earth try to survive of 10 or less US dollars. Half the people on Earth try to survive of $2.50 or less a day. And if you're in Africa, you're lucky if you get $1 a day, where people work all day sometimes just for a single meal. Yet all of these places around the world are where most of the resources come from. When you look, you go to your supermarket and you pick up a fruit. That fruit is a fruit that's been taken from the mouth of a Mexican, of an African, of an oppressed people somewhere around the world. When you open your refrigerator, that bottle of milk is something that has been deprived an oppressed person someplace in around the world. And what I'm saying is that it's not a good relationship. And that what has happened is that the majority of white people have allowed themselves to voluntarily become cannon fodder to serve imperialism, because the people are going to be free, and we are going to destroy anything that stands between us and our freedom. And the invitation here for solidarity and reparations is an invitation to Europeans, to white people, to get on the right side of history. If you look around the world and understand what I'm talking about, every contradiction that we experience in the world is caused by white power. Not just the fact that 1 out of every 8 human beings in prison in the world today is an African in this country. Not just that. Not just the police murders that we are afflicted by. But if you look at white people, if you look at the oppression of white homosexuals,
if you look at the oppression of white women, if you look at the exploitation of white workers, white power does that. That's what does it, is white power. You have to unite with black power so that we can overturn, overthrow, destroy white power once and forever, because white power was born as a parasite on the body of humanity. It's got to go. It's got to go. And that don't come easy. We're building revolutionary organizations.
That's right.
And what we're finding is that more and more young people want revolution.
That's right.
They don't want that old lollygagging, shuffling, butt kissing, bootlicking, grinning, knee-bending kind of relationship. They want revolution.
That's right.
And we've built a revolutionary organization everywhere. And revolution is not what you read about in the movies.
That's right.
What you see in the movies. Revolution is incredibly significant. And revolution is the overturning of a particular kind of social system. And this social system has to be overturned. Capitalism was given born birth by colonialism and by slavery. I'm saying this, you got to understand this, because you got some white leftist friends who may even be in this room who will tell you that in order to defeat capitalism, what you got to do is have the industrial working class, which means white working class, overthrow the industrial ruling class, which means white ruling class. And somehow that translates into the socialist revolution. We say, hell no. The fact is, if you got a white person who's got a job in this country, in this state, it's a white person who's got a job at the expense of the Mexican people. You understand what I'm saying? That the capitalism rests upon a pedestal of slavery and colonialism. And as much as I respected V.R. Lenin, who was an incredible revolutionary, he was wrong when he said that imperialism is capitalism developed to its highest stage. The fact of the matter is that imperialism came first. It was empire that came here and took the land from the Mexican people. It was empire. It was the feudal empire that stretched out around the world and kept the resources that brought those resources into Europe and finally into this place that created capitalism. And if you want to know how to destroy capitalism, it's simple. Marx himself said that capitalist activity rested upon a pedestal of slavery, pure and simple. He said, wage slavery in Europe requires as a pedestal slavery pure and simple in the New World. In other words, the entire capitalist entity rests upon the pedestal of colonialism and of slavery. And this is why every time you see a growth in the resistance of the colonized peoples around the world, you see economic crisis in England, in Europe, throughout this country. The economic crisis, you want to talk about the bubble? Hell, the bubble is the resistance of oppressed peoples around the world. That's what's causing the chaos in the empire. So I just want to say that. So we talking about destroying capitalism, and we're talking about another kind of social system. We're talking about a kind of social system that most of us enjoyed before we met the white man. Met the white man who came from feudalism, where they believed in the private ownership of land, which was peculiar. This development translated into what we see today, where a handful of people who don't work at all own and control the methods, the means by which other people can make a living. That's a horrible exploitation. It's a system of exploitation. It's a dehumanizing system. I mean, to ride around in San Diego, it's a horrible thing to see. I mean, to pass people who become so demoralized in these tents, who've got shopping carts with all of their belongings, who've been pushed into states of drunken stupors, whose occupation is to stand out on the underpass with a cardboard sign saying, "Feed me, I'm hungry." What kind of society is this? It's a society that can't be any different from one that was born of slavery and genocide. That's what produced those tents out there. And that's the thing that we understand. So we're talking about a socialism that is not a kind of gentler capitalism. But socialism means the total destruction of the capitalist system and the elevation of the African and other workers to the position of ruling class, so that the workers now own and control the means of production as opposed to the bourgeoisie. So that we don't have this situation. Bernie Sanders, who was running around saying that he might give the working people $15 an hour, hell, we say the means of production have to be in the position of the actual workers class. The producers have to have possession of the means of production, and maybe Bernie can get $15 an hour from the rest of us. So that's what we're fighting. So I want to thank you, and I want you to be united with the African Revolution, because that's the revolution I'm united with. And I want you to recognize that what capitalism has done has created horrible social system. It has taken it to my Africa as well. It has imposed class stratification in Africa of the sort that never existed before. It has educated me to be a neo-colonial puppet stooge. What they call education, you know what I'm talking about. It's a form of civilizing us. They give us what they call education. They come to us with the assumption that we have no history of our own. We have nothing that we can contribute. We just empty heads that white power has to pour this stuff into us to make us as much like white people as possible. They give us their values. They destroy our values and give us their values. I'm saying that we have to create a social system that speaks to our needs. The kind of social system where we share it with each other. We create it with each other. We produce with each other. A kind of social system where you don't have to work all damn day early where you can't see in the morning to can't see in the night, so that you don't have any life for yourself. The kind of social system where the workers have to make the determination of whether to go into a mine or not, whether it's safe or not, because the workers will control production. And if you know if the workers are the ones who make a decision about whether a mine is safe, whether it's safe to work on this job, it's going to be safe because their lives are the things that are at stake here. We're talking about the power of the working class, the international working class. And we think the struggle, the liberation of Africa is critical for all of that and the liberation of African people. And I'm telling you this final thing, because I know the workers have been stuffed with all kinds of bourgeois white nationalist prejudices. In our party, we believe that the working class, the African working class, has no interest in oppressing any damn body except the oppressor. Except the oppressor. We got to state power. We got to state power. Somebody going to jail. Those jail cells are going to be open, but somebody going to jail. Those who are lucky are going to jail when we capture state power. But we are not interested, the working class is not interested in oppressing anybody. African women are standing hip to hip and have always stood hip to hip with us in this revolutionary process. We're talking about a revolutionary party that not only talks about the equality of African men and women, but practices it. You see who run most of the institutions in our party, who are in our Central Committee. At least half the people in the Central Committee are women. And this is not something that we do artificially, but these are incredible leaders that stand up in our movement. We're talking about understanding that if you're colonized, the nation is colonized. In order to break out of colonialism, you've got to unite the nation. In order to fight for socialism, you've got to unite the class. So this notion that somehow we should oppress women, we should oppress homosexuals, same-gender loving people, no. That serves imperialism. It does not serve us. We want to unite everybody who's willing to fight to overturn capitalism, to overturn colonialism, to unite Africa and African people around the world under the leadership of the African working class. Uhuru!
I want to, first of all, express appreciation to Queen Mother Sister Makeda for being here in the first place, for being here and making this incredible institution available to us. I had that what I was supposed to say early on, but Uhuru. Okay.
You know, in order to keep this great institution, we have to support it so we can have, you know, organizations use this, you know. So, but what I want to talk to you about is the Haitian refugees at the border in Tijuana, Mexico. We need your help. Those are African people. They're on the streets with no food. We need blankets, toiletry, we need jackets. You know, none of us are free until all of us are free. When we talk about African people, those are African people sleeping on the ground in a country that they don't even know. And they don't even speak the language. They're coming from Brazil. Because after the change of government, they came after the refugees. So they're coming through Brazil, they're coming through Venezuela. After Chavez left Venezuela and the United States again was meddling in that country, they had to come down. They're coming from all over. The Haitians are here. So we got to make sure they're not deported. You know, back to a country that just had a devastating hurricane. So we need to support the Haitian people, the first free republic in our Caribbean atmosphere, or even in this diaspora here. So we need you to help. I was the first black face that they've seen. There's 6,000, and it's going to be 10,000 in about 3 months. They're coming to the border. So we need your help. You can come over. If you speak French, we need you. Okay? So you can go on our website and you can see what you can do to help our people. You're Uhuru.
And again, I want to give another round of applause to Chairman Omali Yeshitela for that powerful presentation. I want to call on white people that are here. You have to join us. You cannot walk away from this because being the colonizer sucks. It is no life. It makes you sick. It makes you the enemy of the people on the planet Earth. And if we want to be part of the future, we have the opportunity through this organization, through the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, to be and live in a world in which the chairman is describing, in which African workers have power, in which indigenous workers have power. And this system is gone. And we have the ability, we have the opportunity through the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party to stand up and be a human being in this world. To have an honest and principled relationship to everybody else. Come on over to this side. And I have the honor of introducing Kunde Mwamita, who is a powerful fighter and leader. She is the mother of 5 children. She is a woman that works 12-hour shifts to support her family. And on the early morning of March 31st of this year, the police murdered her daughter, Dominique Battle, 16 years old, and Dominique's best friends, Lanaya Miller and Ashanti Butler, who were both 15 years old. And they murdered these girls in the way that they say for Africans. They don't kill white people this way. That in the early hours of the morning, the police began a chase against the car that the girls were driving. And in case you're not aware, but police chases murder as many people as police murder with guns. So that all of the statistics about killed by police, you can double that. That's how many people are killed in a year by the police, by the state. And that the girls were followed in the car. based on the fact, according to the sheriff's own lies, that their headlights weren't on. But in fact, their own video, the police's own video shows that their headlights were on. So they've lied all up and down the line on this. They put out their own reports and their own videos that shows they lied, and they don't think that it would be challenged. But that the car was eventually followed by an undercover sheriff's deputy's car, by the sheriff, this deputy Howard Skaggs, who is the head of the DUI unit. This had nothing to do with DUI, but they use this car as an undercover car to pursue Africans. They do this quite often. And they follow the girls. They call this the wolf pack, by the way. They stick the wolf pack on these girls. And they basically, he corralled them into a cemetery road on a dark night, in an unlit cemetery, on a broken path that the cop knew would either go into a tree, into a gravestone, or into a pond that they could not see. And basically, they pushed the girl's car, they forced the girl's car into the pond. By the time they got to the pond, the sheriff had called, the deputy had called backup. There were 12 sheriff vehicles, 17 cops, and a police helicopter flying ahead. The girls floated on the water for 5 minutes in the car. The sheriffs are supposed to be first responders, so they say. And the sheriff himself lied and said the deputies tried to go in the water, which their own video showed that they did not. They could have saved the girls 1,000,000 times over in 5 minutes. The car was 15 feet away. The sheriff said it was 15 to 60 yards away. It wasn't, it was 15 feet away. And they let the car go down, and they murdered the girls. They could have saved them. And the video released by the sheriff's department shows the pigs saying, one is saying, "Oh, I thought I heard screaming," and the other says, "Oh, they're done now, dude. They're effing done." And this is how they murdered them. And Skaggs, who is the officer, the deputy that was the lead chase, the murderer in this case, had gone into the water a few years earlier in another pond, only a few miles from this one, in St. Petersburg, Florida, to kill an 18-year-old, 145-pound African youth. They killed him in the water by hitting his head so hard that a part of his brain collapsed, he had like plant material in his lungs and his nose. When they pulled him out of the water, they had sicked a police dog on this other, and this cop, Skaggs, went into the water to kill this teenager and rescue a dog. But that night, they would not go into the water to rescue these girls. So, Queen Mwambita is a fighter, she is a powerful leader, and she is determined that she is fighting with an organization, the African People's Socialist Party, that will mean that African people will have power over their lives so that no one can kill an African child or person again, ever. And that African people will have black community control of police. So I want to bring up, it's my honor to bring up.
It's not enough that I have to stay in the shelter with my 5 kids. It's not enough that I had to be a single parent and take care of those 5 kids because they want to lock their fathers in prisons. That wasn't enough. So on March 31st, 2016, the state decided that my hell that I was already living in wasn't enough. They decided that 3 beautiful girls' lives had to come to an end because they were African, because we were fighting by it, because we was getting our land, our resources by it. and they were scared of us. And so they felt like that by killing Africans, that would make it right. That would make us stop fighting. But no. It pisses me and every other African off. It pisses off the Mexicans that land belongs to them, but that the state has taken from them. And I'm on my job where I work 12, 14-hour shifts to take care of my children. And these police want to come to my job and question me about my children, about what they had on and where they were at and who was taking care of them. But the state wasn't taking care of them. I was.
Right on.
I was busting my ass on a white man's job, making $9.75 an hour to take care of 5 children, to house them and to clothe them. And they want to come to my job and question me like I was a helpless, no good mother. And then they had the audacity to look me in my face and tell me that my baby was dead. I just seen her the night before, all 3 of them, but you gonna stand there and tell me they dead? And you don't think I wanna get your ass? You don't think I wanna come after you? Really?
Right on. Right on.
You got the wrong mother. I am here fighting for justice for those 3 girls. I don't want no hush money. I want justice.
Right on.
What they did in the dark has come to the light. And that ass of yours is mine. I'm the one that has to ride a city bus past my daughter's gravesite every day. I'm the one that take her flowers and go sit by her and talk to her. And if she was still here, and that's not fair, and it's not right. But I'm not the only one. Because there's other Africans and Mexicans and other oppressed people who have to do the same thing because the state want to take from them, want to steal from them. But they call us the illegal aliens. They're the fucking aliens. They have no right to be here. We have to be united. I don't want solidarity. I want united. I want leadership. I want us to come together. Stop fighting each other and join each other. Get our fucking land back. Get our resources back. Get our lives back. We want freedom. And we're not asking for it. We're taking it. We are oppressed people, but we ain't gonna be oppressed no more. When you look at these nursing homes, you see black people, African people. When you look at these motel rooms, you see these maids, they're Mexican and Spanish and other people. You don't see no white people cleaning no motel room or taking care of no old person in the nursing home. We taking care of y'all asses, but we done. Y'all don't know how to get a job. Y'all don't know how to do some fucking work. Cause we tired of taking care of y'all. We tired of working for y'all, and we tired of y'all taking shit from us. This shit ain't right, but I'm here to fight. I guarantee you, by the end of my lifetime, Mexico, African, somebody gonna be goddamn free. That was going to fight for freedom for all oppressed people, regardless of their religion or if they was the same sex, June 11. We don't care. We want freedom. And the only organization that was out there that was talking about the same thing and was fighting for the same thing that I would want to fight for and I'm willing to fight for and I'm going to die fighting for was the Uhuru movement. And I understand some people might be scared of change, but the change is what your ass need. Wake up, let's get our shit from these people. We gotta take it out their hands, they're not gonna give it to us. We're not beggars. We are strong in numbers, and we have to realize that it's time that you join the revolutionary. Uhuru.
Thank you, Kunde. What a strong and powerful mother. What a self-determining African woman. Thank you. Please stand up again and give another hand to Kunde Yeshitela, all the way to Pinellas County, Florida. Daughters from there. We have to right these wrongs. We have to right these wrongs. We have to get on the right side of history. I'm Star, the National Political Action Chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. And this is the opportunity for us to walk our talk, to not just stand in emotional and psychological support for Kunde Yeshitela, Mother Warrior, but to stand in material solidarity, to turn this into reparations, to right the wrongs of history, to get on the right side of history, to contribute in every way we can. This is Jessie Neville, the National Chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement.
Reparation! Reparation! Uhuru! I want to begin by expressing how moved I am to stand here today in San Diego for the 4th day in solidarity with African people event and the outstanding presentations by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and Chairman Penny Hess, and I especially want to salute a hero who is among us, Kunde Yeshitela. Kunde has spoken now on this topic in St. Petersburg, Florida, where our first event was held, in Huntsville, Alabama, in Oakland, California, here in San Diego, and will from here be traveling to Gainesville, Florida, to Boston, Massachusetts, and to Seattle, Washington for the rest of the Days in Solidarity with African people. And Kunde is a warrior who has decided that as difficult as it is to stand here and speak about what the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department did to her children, that it is more difficult to live another day under this foul colonial social system. And we as the Uhuru Solidarity Movement make a call to white people to fight against this system that, as we have heard tonight, sheds the blood of African people in our name and for our benefit with the same intensity and determination that Kunde fights with her children, as if they were our own. We're going to talk about how you can join this organization, how you can become a member, how you can contribute to the work of the African People's Socialist Party, how we can heed the call made by Chairman Omali Yeshitela. But first, I just want to mention that this murder that we just heard about was a drowning. That these 3 girls were drowned. That was the particular method of murder used in this case. And that this is not the first time that white power has drowned African people as a means of murder. In fact, the inception of this social system, as Chairman taught us, in the enslavement of African people, involved a highway of African bones stretching across the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean from all of the African people who drowned on the so-called Middle Passage on their way in chains to this land and other places to work for hundreds of years to build this country and this economy. And even today, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of African people who drown in the Mediterranean, leaving their homeland because of US instigated terror to seek refuge. So Dominique Battle, Ashanti Butler, and Lanaya Miller are the most recent to join the hundreds of millions of African people who have not just been murdered, but have been drowned by this system. I also want to mention that sometimes we say that there are two Americas. There is the white reality at the expense of what African people experience. And Chairwoman Penny has mentioned this. There is indeed one reality. Those two realities exist as part of the same reality, the same social system, two sides of the same coin. And that every laugh of a white child, every giggle of a white baby comes at the expense of drone strikes in Pakistan and laughter and life itself that has been denied to African children. There's a relationship. So the call to white people is not simply a call based on the fact that we want to be good people or do what's right morally because we see other people suffering. No, we live because they die. We eat because they starve. It's one system. We sit on the pedestal of this oppression. And this is about, as the chairman laid out so passionately, this is the long march toward African revolution. And when we talk about contributing towards this struggle, towards this movement, it's not charity, it's not even really a donation, it's not even really just fundraising, it's contributing towards the advancement on the long march towards Africa's freedom. And every dollar that you contribute, every dollar that you take away from parasitic capitalism, and not simply turn it over to the African Revolution, but turn it against parasitic capitalism in so doing. Every dollar is a step forward on the march towards African liberation. So we want to show you what you support concretely. You've heard the vision. The vision is important because it's not just about supporting programs, but the vision, strategy behind those programs is key. And now we want to show you what that looks like in the real world, the practical work that the chairman and the Uhuru movement are building all over the world that we support as reparations to African people. And before I turn it over to Comrade Starr, I want to close by saying that, you only get one life, and we just happen to have been born into a time in history when the world is split between the oppressor and the oppressed nations of the world. We didn't choose to be born into this world, but this is the one we were born into. And it's up to you what you do with the life, the one life that you get. And in this era, in the one life that you get, there's a lot of choices that are presented to you as white people. Where am I going to go to school? Am I going to go to school? What am I going to study? What should my job be? What should my career be? Should I have kids? Should I not have kids? Where should I live? Et cetera, et cetera. But all of those choices are meaningless. The choice that gives meaning to your life, for better or worse, the choice that defines you as a human being is the choice you make when presented with the question of whether you will side with the oppressor or side with the oppressed, of whether you will side with Kunde or the police, with African people or with America. And that's the choice, that's the question that's being posed by this event, and specifically by this part of the program that we want to present to you now. So thank you everybody for being here, and I'd like to turn it over to Starr.
Thank you, Jesse. Rockstar Industries, the economic front of the African People's Socialist Party. Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the African People's Socialist Party formed Black Star Industries, the economic foundation of a liberated African nation, carrying on the legacy of Marcus Garvey and led by Deputy Chair Omali Yeshitela. Black Star Industries is about building economic development and commerce for and between African people everywhere. It's about African people meeting the needs of African people everywhere for prosperity, decent housing, health, and the ability to follow their aspirations to contribute to the well-being and development of the entire people. To create, produce Uhuru foods and pies, to sell the freshest foods, to build self-sustaining economic development. Here's the evidence, comrades. Look, friends, family, look at the evidence of Black Star Industries and African self-determination. Designed for the prosperity and self-determination of present and future generations of African people worldwide, not just here in the U.S. Burning Spear Media, dedicated to giving voice to the struggles of the African working class. People like Kunde Wanvita, through radio programs like Black Power 96 FM, print media and online news. Every African and progressive person in the world needs access to Burning Spear Media, including us. The Burning Spear newspaper, the oldest Black revolutionary newspaper in the world. One Africa, One Nation marketplace is in every city and community where African people live to meet their needs for commerce and retain the majority of resources to circulate within the community. Planet Uhuru apparel, jackets, clothes, other products. You can look stylish while making a powerful statement in support of African self-determination, solidarity, and most important, reparations. We've been hearing the call for reparations for decades now. HR 40 and all kinds of legislation that's been proposed. The call for reparations is real and solid here in the African People's Socialist Party. Here's Jesse going to talk about that in more concrete detail.
Uhuru. So this event tonight, as part of the 7-city speaking tour of the Days in Solidarity with African People, has a goal. Has a goal to raise resources. We want to tell you what that goal is.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, so this is the goal, but not tonight, of course. This is actually not the whole goal even. This is the bare minimum. This number, if you're not aware, is $14.2 trillion owed by the United States economy to African people for the cost of unpaid labor alone. The value of the labor to build the White House, to build Wall Street, to build everything, every institution in the United States would be equal to $14.2 trillion, which is equal to the GDP of the United States economy. So it's basically all of it. And this is just the beginning. That doesn't even include convict leasing, the prison system, the lynchings, the police murders, and everything that has happened since then. But this is not the goal for tonight. The goal for tonight is $3,000. So at first this may sound like a lot, but when you see it in the context of everything that's been stolen from African people, it's really nothing. And we are committed to raise these resources tonight, and we open the door for everyone to contribute towards the vision of Black Star Industries, the work of the African People's Socialist Party, and every dollar that you put, whether you donate the entire amount or whether you donate $3, your resources go a long way in this movement. And that is evidenced by all of the institutions that this movement has spanning the globe.
So $3,000 tonight is very, very manageable. I can see us meeting that and even exceeding that. There's all kinds of levels available to you. You can become a sustainer, and we've got basket passers, Jamie's Impedum youth, the African youth who did the African Pledge earlier, who will be bringing baskets around with envelopes in them. Peanut, Bug, Jerome, and Maji. So there's baskets coming around, and there's various sustainers levels, starting with the highest and the greatest, named after the great leader of the African People's Socialist Party, the Omali Yeshitela level, starting at $25,000 a year. Is there anyone in the room who can become a sustainer of this important work for $25,000?
The next level is the Patrice Lumumba level, $10,000 towards the work of the Uhuru movement, which breaks down to $834 a month. And we put these levels out because there are people in the white community who can do this. Actually, there are white people who can easily do that. And we have, we want to put that out to make that call. Not all of us can do it, but because there's social wealth, there's wealth in the white community in general, we always put out this call at our events, and we do have people tuning in online as well that can donate at uhurusolidarity.org. And by the way, the form that you're getting, you can fill it out, and if you want to donate anonymously, you can do that. You can write a check to Uhuru, UHURU, or we can sign you up as a sustainer before you leave tonight.
At the Kwame Nkrumah level is $417 a month or $5,000.
Lights on again?
Yeah. The next level is $2,000. If 2 people did this level, we would surpass the goal. This is $167 a month, $2,000 named for Harriet Tubman. Is there anybody in the room or online that would like to become a Harriet Tubman level member? And if you're raising your hand, I can't see because the light is in my eye. All right. So let's keep going.
Matt.
The next level sustainer is Ella Baker. We have several sustaining members who are Ella Baker level, which is $100 a month or $1,200 annually. Anybody who can sustain this work and help support the goals of African self-determination, the liberated African economy, $1,200 a month at the Ella Baker level.
And I just want to clarify that I know there are members in here, and even if you are a member, you can contribute towards this appeal, and you can upgrade your membership, or you can donate an additional amount at any of these levels. So the next level is Marcus Garvey, $730, $60 a month in reparations to African people. So anybody in the room tonight that would like to sustain the work of Black Star Industries for $60 a month. And again, the African Revolution is moving forward, and this is a struggle of oppressed people to reclaim their resources. And this event is part of the struggle of African people. All of these events are part of the struggle of African people to reclaim their resources. I see a hand over here, and could you tell us your name?
I'm Matt Douglas, and I'm already a Marcus Garvey level sustainer, but I'm going to kick in an additional $100 today.
All right.
Douglas is already a Marcus Garvey level sustainer, but he's going to kick in another $100 tonight. Uhuru man, thank you. Jackson, also upgrade to Marcus Garvey level. Uhuru Jackson, thank you. Jackson is our local president of the San Diego chapter. Thank you for that. The next level is Malcolm X, $1 a day. Anybody able to become a Malcolm X level sustainer tonight? $30 a month or $365 a day. Like the chairman said, most people around the world live on $1 a day or less.
The next level is Katura Carey, $300, $25 a month. Is there anybody in the room that would like to sustain programs, African self-determination and economic development designed to end the social system built on oppression for $25 a month as a Katura Carey level member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement? And Matt will let us know. You can see the chat, right? If anyone signed up online. Okay. All right.
Who's Katura Carey?
Katura Carey is the co-founder, was one of the co-founders of the African People's Socialist Party. And she was based in Gainesville, Florida. So we named this level in honor of this revolutionary hero, Katura Carey.
The next level is Queen Nzinga, the great warrior leader of Africa who kicked out the Portuguese. He's a tremendous leader. This is a level that I just agreed to take Katura Carey a couple weeks ago. Anybody can contribute $20 a month to support our work, to stand in solidarity. Aya, very good, thank you. Uhuru. Aya Beirudi is a recent member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement here in San Diego. Thank you.
All right, anybody like to join Aya for $20 a month as a Queen and Zinga level sustainer? All right, so let's go to the next level. So this is Huey Newton, named for the founder of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, who was assassinated by the US government. And this is $15 a month to support the struggle to complete the Black Revolution of the 1960s. Is there anybody that for $15 a month would like to become a Huey P. Newton level sustainer of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement?
I think it's really telling tonight that the local Black Panther chapter is here, and Chairman was a friend of Huey P's, and we really honor that tradition. We understand the connection that during that time, there was a lot of opportunism among the white activists, and for 40 years the African People's Solidarity Committee has distinguished ourselves from that, has stepped aside and not been opportunists. We've stood in solidarity, principled solidarity with African liberation, the struggle of oppressed people everywhere to liberate themselves and to be self-determining. The next level is Che Guevara, $10 a month or $120 a year, and that can be done for the entire year. Awesome, Valo, thank you very much. And Cuauhtemoc, thank you, Valo and Cuauhtemoc. After the great Mexican leader whose feet would not burn. Excellent, thank you, Cuauhtemoc and Valo. Uhuru. And the last level is Stephen Biko at $5 a month. Okay.
Before we go there, so I just want to appreciate the two people who just became Che level members for $120 a month, or $120 a year, $10 a month. And Chairman Omali Yeshitela said that there are 80% of the world's population lives on less than $10 US a day. So I really appreciate, I actually started off at that level, and I hope that other people will consider becoming a member at some level tonight. And again, no amount is too small or too large, and I have given to this organization even when I couldn't, and found a way. And I really encourage everyone to think about everything you've heard tonight. It's impossible not to be moved by everything that we've heard, and not think about it in terms of like, can I afford that in my current budget? But even if you have to, how can I reconfigure things so I can do something every single month to support the work of Black Star Industries? So I just wanted to say that before we go to the last few levels here, at which I think everybody can become a member at some level. So go ahead.
And again, you can donate anonymously, or you can go to uhurusolidarity.org and set up your sustainership there, or update. And the last one is the Stephen Biko level at $5 a month, or $60 a year. Anybody for $5 a month?
All right, and the last two levels before we open it up for donations of any amount is to become a general member. It's simply $25, one-time annual contribution of $25, and you can become a general member. So I'd like to invite anyone who's not already a member to become a general member for $25 a month. Anybody in the room? Is that a hand I see back there? No. Is there anybody in the room? Okay. So finally, we also have student or fixed income level $10 a month, or $10 a year. $10. And you can become a member of this organization as a student. Thank you very much. Uhuru. Thank you. All right, so now we want to open it up for contributions of any amount. You can just call out a number.
I'll donate $200 tonight.
All right, Uhuru. $100. Uhuru, any hands? should be coming around to collect your envelopes and your contributions. And we will come back up and make an announcement. Again, you can donate anonymously. You can donate online if you're watching. And for those of you who have chosen to become sustaining members, don't leave tonight without coming to Wendy Craig right here. She will get you signed up online as a sustainer. It's very easy. Comes out of your account on the same day every month. You don't even notice it. It becomes part of your routine. So please make sure you talk to Wendy before you leave tonight. And we want to turn it back over to our MC for the Q&A. Well, actually, for a few more important speakers, especially.
Uhuru. I'd like to donate $100.
All right, Wendy Craig, Uhuru. Is there anybody else that would like to join Wendy Craig?
250.
Uhuru Jackson. All right, Uhuru. Well, I really appreciate everybody for being here and contributing tonight. And we will come back up in a few moments to announce how much we raised as this appeal tonight. So thank you very much, and reparations now. Uhuru.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse, and thank you, Star, and thank you for everyone who contributed. It is my honor to introduce our final speaker, Richard Olongo Abuka. Mr. Olongo Abuka is a dignitary from Uganda. As many of us know, his son, Alfred Olongo, was shot in Altona on September 27th, later died in his wounds. Please help me welcome Mr. Olongo Abuka.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everybody who is here. Thank you for a very nice speech, the founder of the Uhuru movement. And thank you, that lady there who spoke. Our children were drowned. It is difficult if you are in a situation like me and that girl to speak at times. But when you see carefully, you find that you have to tell people something. I know that there is a streamlined approach to Uhuru movement and how the program has been set and how it should be approached. So when you are going to deal with an issue like mine or ours, where you lost a son, then you also have a way to present it. You remember that the person who introduced me here said I came from Uganda. It's true. Why did I come out of Uganda? I didn't even know I would be coming to America. When you hear the founder speaking of people like Patrick Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah, people like Jomo Kenyatta, Julius Nyerere, Apple Milton Obote, and so on and so on. These were the founders of a very strong revolution in Africa, in which I lived in. When the Belgian people were driven away by Patrick Lumumba, I was in grade 6. And they were passing through my home when they were running away from Congo. So I've seen some of those things.
Yes.
Now I'm here. I asked the question, why am I here? We came here because we ran out of a war zone. Some of you may know that there is a war going on in Uganda, in northern Uganda. You might have heard about issues like the invisible children here in San Diego. That is in my home area, together with this guy here. So we came out because we didn't want the kids to be killed there. I came out because I was in the government. I didn't want to be killed too. There was also genocide. during the present regime, which is in Uganda. There is human rights abuse, which is going on in Uganda, even up to now. Now, that brings me to how my son died. Police brutality. It is also going on in Uganda. I get puzzled. I ran away from war. I ran away from genocide. I ran away from human rights abuse. I ran away from police brutality. It is the police brutality that killed my son here in America.
Yes.
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 No. Where should we go?
Yes.
We have been brainwashed that America is the what?
Yes.
The leader of the free world.
Yes.
Now, if you run with your children to come and protect them here and plus yourself, and they are killed here, what is the meaning of that free world?
Yes.
Therefore, we have a lot of work to be done.
Yes, we do.
I'm talking with a different approach, especially as regards the police brutality. I could go in deep detail about revolution because a part of it I was involved in it. And I grew up as a student of Indira Gandhi. That is how I have been brought up. But here, when my son Alfred was shot by Richard Gonzalez on the 27th of September, I told the people who were attending the rally that the Shita declared war against humanity. Gonzalez didn't know what he was shooting. He was shooting at United Nations. Because Alfred Olango belongs to United Nations. So United Nations has to ask American government why Alfred Olango was killed. United Nations has to ask the governor of California why Alfred Olango was killed. United Nations has to ask Attorney General of California, of San Diego, why Alfred Olango was killed. United Nations has to ask the police chief of an account city why Alfred Olango was killed. So you see, it's a very big complication. He thought he was shooting, pulling trigger on a simple target, but he pulled trigger on a bigger target than what he thought. And let me tell you, we are going to fight. We have been in fights. We fought before, and we know what war is. I passed over dead bodies. I passed over dead children. I passed over dead women, dead men. I know what war is. Yeah. And when you declare, as this police officer did on the 27th, yeah, he has to be ready to stand for the answer. Yeah. It is difficult. My son Alfred will not be replaced. But Alfred's death must be a turning point in American judicial system, including how the police department in America works. I have been in the service for over 30 years. I know what is required of a police officer when he is sent for an operation. In the training school, they are trained not to shoot and kill. They are trained to shoot and disable so that they can arrest the person. Right. The police officer are not required to shoot a person in the head. He is not required to shoot a person in the heart. So if the bullet lands in those areas, the police officer has committed a murder. Which means if that police officer is convicted, he should be electrocuted. If we have law, but if we don't have law, then the police officer will be set free. Like now, the officer who shot my son, he's not even in jail, he's not remanded. Now you question yourself, what is happening? I remember Attorney General DC district attorney said, she thought the shooting was justifiable. Now let me ask a simple question, logic here. If Alfred Olango was the son of the district attorney, would the district attorney say that the shooting was justifiable?
No.
Now, the police chief of El Cajon City said he thought the shooting was justifiable. If Alfred Olango was the son of police chief of El Cajon City, would the police chief of El Cajon City say the shooting was justifiable? Now, if it was Richard Olabua who shot the son of Richard Gonzalez, where would Olabua be now? And where is Gonzalez now? This is why I say that we have to learn to come together and stand as a bloc. We are going to fight as a bloc. You are our weapons. We are not going to pull any trigger, although we know how to do it. But you people are going to be our trigger. You will never defeat a united people, whatever who you are. You are the people who put the President of America in the White House. You are the people who are putting people in the Senate and Congress. If you say no, they will not be there. The same thing to the district attorney. The same thing to police chief. If you say no, they will not be there. Election is coming. Tell these people that we need an immediate adjustment in the judicial system and how the policing is done in America. Something is wrong. It has to be corrected. So we shall need your help. The fight has just started. And it's not going to be a one-person fight. It is going to be a people fight. That's why I say we shall not use guns. We are not going to pull triggers. You are the trigger. The trigger will come from your mouth. The trigger will come from your action. The trigger will come from how you show the authority that something is going wrong in the policy in the United States. Why has it been going on for a long time? And nobody is doing anything about it. We hear that a person is killed here. The next time here. The next time there. The next time will be you. The next time will be that time. The next time will be that one. How are we going to stop this if we don't take action? So we need unity. I believe in unity and diversity. By that I mean that even if you have differences, take the good ideas from your friend, leave the bad one behind, throw it behind, and use only the good one, and work with the good man as a united team. Yes. So when I think about Uhuru, when I say Uhuru, which I used a lot in the 60s because I got indoctrinated in politics in 1961. When I say Uhuru, it is a lot of meaning to me. When I say Uhuru Nakazi, it means a lot to me. When I say Arambe, it means I'm setting a fight. And you guys should be ready for the fight. And your answer when I say Arambe, you should also say Arambe. And you say Africa, oh yeah. Africa, oh yeah. Yeah, that's the motto. Africa, oh yeah. Africa, oh yeah. Umoja ni ndugu. Brotherhood. Yeah. Ujamaa ni umoja. Ujamaa na umoja. Unity with brotherhood. This is one of the strongest mottos which has been used in African politics for a very long time. And the founder was Dr. Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. Ujamaa na umoja. Dunia ni moja. The whole world is one. That's how he was singing. That was his philosophy. So if we can promote those ideas and fight with the Uhuru movement and help our people who are being killed day and night and authority defend them, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You see, a nation is controlled by the citizen. If the citizen says no, you find that the country begins to break down. So whenever we are going to struggle for this fight, let us take it in such a way that we are not going to do something which will give authority reason to come and attack you. Because any slight thing you do will be a reason for them to come and follow you or do something to you. So that I keep them out by not doing anything that will make them come to us. Yeah. So therefore, the ideology of non-violence, which has been a very powerful machinery for Indira Gandhi for bringing independence to India, and it was copied by very many revolutionaries, can be a very good weapon. Because even if we go that we should fight, it's not going to help. The only thing we can bring is a change through peaceful means, which will remain in action. Because if the killing resulted into changing the law in America, how the police operate in America, then we have made success. The police officers in America acting like military people. They are acting like paramilitary. That we don't want those people there. That is the problem America is facing. They are recruiting soldiers straight from the war field. Soldiers who have been trained, some of them 2 or 3 years in the military school. They are sent in the police training for 6 months. That is not enough. These people in 6 months in the police training school, it's not enough. 150 hours, you qualify as a police officer? America is lying. You need a well-trained police officer, well-armed, who know criminology. You must pass criminology before you are sent in the field. I don't know if these people pass criminology within 6 months. So, we shall need your help. On the 29th, we shall be here. And our motto on the 29th will be International Peace Day for campaign against police brutality and remembrance of the victims of police shooting. That will be on the 29th, and we want to promote it. We want people to be ready for it. It will start in the evening. There will be a lot of African food, and also food from here. I think this place will be full with food, and we're working on that. So we shall need your help. The killing of, like the way that lady's children were killed, and the way Alfred was killed, there is no justice. You cannot. That's not justice. That's not justice. That's not how the police should operate. So we need change in the policy in American system. And there might be a change in the judicial system. In this particular area. Because this is affecting the whole of America every month. Something must be done. Okay? Thank you. Hold the gun. Hold the gun. Hold the gun. Ujama. Ujama. Arambe. 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 Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm not hearing. Are you ready? All right, let's go and fight. Go and fight.
We have just about 5 minutes for discussion. I wanted to bring the chairman back up for any comments. Just a few minutes for comments. Questions. If anybody would like to raise something to Chairman Omali Yeshitela, yes. Do we have a mic for this person? If you could just use the mic, and Jesse's going to bring it around.
Who is it?
It's
Jesse.
Peace, brother.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Brother had said on the 29th was going to be an International Day of Peace. Is that what he said?
On the 29th?
On the 29th?
Yeah, 29th.
Okay, well, what I do want to highlight is that there's some brothers and sisters down in Mexico that need blankets too, so maybe we could bring blankets on that day too, man.
Uhuru, you mean for the brothers and sisters from Haiti?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So that's why that organized that. So I was just talking about them brothers and sisters needed blankets, they needed socks and canned goods and all kind of stuff down there. So I mean, here you go. Maybe that's the perfect time to bring some stuff so they could have some blankets. She also said they need tarps.
I think that's a good idea. We are in a fight and we are in a war. If you are going for war, you go ready. So if those items are needed, we are welcome. We were even thinking that maybe if we could have it overnight, we bring even students of various universities to attend it, so that we send very strong message to the United States government, San Diego government, our local authorities, and the police department. So those things will be accepted, will be okay. Okay?
First off, I want to say thank you for clearing up the space about how capitalism, or rather colonialism, led to laissez-faire capitalism, or just capitalism. Everything could not be inherently evil, but unfortunately with capitalism, it's all for profit. It's all for gain. And at the cost of what? Human lives. It's human morality even. Ethics are gone, everything is out the door. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for opening, at least clearing my mind a little bit better for that. Thank you. You've actually introduced me a lot more into socialism. And thank you for that.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, sorry for that. But, my name is Matthew Mendenhall, and this is my wife Tamra and my daughter Araya, and we own the organization called the Community Connection. And I say that because we provide a free newsletter that goes out every single week about what's going on in the Black community. And so we want you to be informed, and we want you to be a part of that. Part of the reason why we created this is because we want there to be unity in the Black community. So what we're doing is we're creating the largest Black business directory in San Diego. After we do San Diego, we're going to go to LA and do the same thing in LA, and then we're going to do the same thing in New York and all the other cities in America. So it starts here, and we definitely want you to be a part of it. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you for always coming to San Diego.
Thank you.
And giving us the good.
Thank you.
Working with some of my Uhuru brethren like Jason, Xavier, we are working for a Million Prisoner March on Washington, August 2017. We are prison abolitionists. We are also demanding that the slavery clause in the 13th Amendment is removed. What are your thoughts on that, sir, and how can we get Uhuru involved if your thoughts align?
Well, I think the walls should be torn down. All the prisons should be destroyed, and everybody should be set free from the prison system. And we need a process that we can put the real criminals in prison. But I want to say that in terms of the 13th Amendment, for people who don't know it, the 13th Amendment it supposedly gets rid of slavery, but what it does is it says that slavery is prohibited except for punishment for a crime. In other words, it has codified, it has made slavery legal in another way, and that's why you see all these people in prison, that the Constitution says that it's legal to do that. But the problem that we have, and it's related to something else that's been stated earlier, the police they're not just poorly trained people. They don't kill us in Uganda or in the United States or in Afghanistan or other places because they're poorly trained. The police is an arm of the state.
Yes, sir.
The state is an organization that exists solely for the purpose of oppression. It is a coercive instrument that has come into existence in human society because society is split between haves and have-nots. And those who have it, they have it as a consequence of taking it from those who do not have it. In order to keep the peace and to make sure that the system is stable under those circumstances, you need a capacity to force people to do things. The police are the first line of defense for an oppressive, for a social system. So the police do not kill us because they don't know how to act.
They kill us because that's their job, to maintain, to protect the status quo. If, in fact, the police can't stop killing us, because if they could stop killing us, they'd stop, because it doesn't make sense politically for them to keep killing people and have all these uprisings and things like that coming as a consequence. If they could stop, they would. But the task of the police is to protect the status quo. The status quo is stolen Mexican territory, oppressed African people, and the state of oppression that exists throughout the world. And the Constitution of the United States, which is simply the means by which the power of the state is legitimated, and that includes the 13th Amendment or all of the other amendments. If for us to have what we need, is we're going to have to destroy the colonial state power, destroy it, wipe it out, defeat it, and create our own state capacity, because the state legalizes itself. So if we don't want a 13th Amendment, that it is, then we're going to have to fight for the power to create the Constitution we need. Having said that, I'm not saying that we should not unite with this day of International Day of Peace on the 29th. I think that we could do that and should do that. But we have to understand that peace, what peace has to mean is actually social justice. You can't have peace on the plantation. Peace means that we have to engage in a struggle to overturn this relationship. I think we should be there. I think we should be there in numbers to support the day of International Day of Peace on the 29th. But we have to define what peace is, and we have to also say that the biggest disturber of the peace in the world is the United States government, and it will always disrupt the peace of the people of the planet Earth. So I think we can unite with that. The other thing I want to say is this. The oppressed peoples of the world do not decide on whether or not it's going to be violence or non-violence. The oppressed people never make that decision. It's the oppressor who says that the only way you're going to get your ass out of here is doing to us what it took us to do to you to put you in here. And you will not find any evidence in the history of the planet Earth where we voted our way into this, where we say, Congressman, please put us in slavery. The same thing that it took to enslave us is going to take to get us out of slavery. We're going to have to fight tooth and nail to get out of the circumstances by any means necessary. Somebody mentioned Gandhi. Somebody mentioned the racist P. Gandhi. But who I will mention Fidel. I will mention Ho Chi Minh. I will mention Ho Nguyen Chia, who created the military force that defeated the French and then defeated the United States. I will mention all of those comrades, Che Guevara, who went to Africa after the revolution in Cuba, who went to Africa and attempted to organize an unknown-wide revolutionary struggle to liberate Africa. Those are the forces I would look at. For me, Gandhi is no example of what it takes to win freedom. And that's not, to say that some people have not been impressed by Gandhi, but if you research Gandhi, and look at what Gandhi fought for, what I'm saying is that there's only going to be genuine peace is when the working and oppressed people of the world are the ones who are the new ruling class. You're going to overturn this oppressive class and become the new ruling class. And all the African workers and poor people need to step forward and assume your responsibility to be leaders and stop following these reactionary forces who dominate us and oppress us throughout the world. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and you've been quite kind and generous with your time on tonight. And I want to thank all the presenters, and a special thanks to Africa from Uganda. And I feel very deeply about the murder of his son. Of Africa alone. I feel very deeply about that, and I knew about it before. I thought I was going to meet you on yesterday, and I'm happy to have this opportunity because we're going to have to link hands. All of us who are oppressed are going to have to link hands and crush this oppressor. We ain't going to be free. I'm telling you, we are not going to get out of this without a fight. There's no way we're going to be free. We are not going to talk this enemy into granting us freedom and peace. They killed every damn body to get here. They stole Mexico. They stole half of Mexico. Why the hell do we think that the Attorney General, anybody who's going to do anything right, they stole half of Mexico. You came running from Uganda to occupy Mexico. Half of California, Texas, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona. This is stolen from Mexico at gunpoint. The Mexican people are starving and oppressed on this side of the border and the other side of the border. We are going to have to really cooperate with each other. My cooperation will be with the Mexican people to destroy the border and to destroy the oppression of the colonial domination here. That's what's going to bring justice to us. That's what's going to bring justice to Olongo. Because the person, the policeman that killed Olongo got his practice in killing the Mexican people first, before you got here. And in many ways, in the development of capitalism in this country, the Mexicans was niggers out here in this particular area. So I say solidarity with the compañeros. And I want to say one other thing. I know we don't have time. But I mentioned Union de Barrio. I mentioned compañera Kathy and Monica. And I don't even remember the year anymore. But I was in Holland. I don't even remember the city I was in Holland. But I went to this international conference, communists and other kind of people all over the place, and the white left was there representing the struggle of colonized people in this country. And they had set up this table on the platform where they were going to speak with other forces from around the world to talk about Africa, people being colonized in this country. And these courageous women here, I never forget this, courageous woman got the Union de Barrio flag, went up and put another chair at the table and pushed them off to the side, threw the banner there, the Union de Barrio banner on the front of the thing, and then spoke for the Mexican people, saying, we will speak for the oppressive colonized Mexican people. I was so proud to see that. And I thought it was such courage in Holland, of all places. So thank you so much for coming out and being with us. We got an enemy here that most people around the world have begun to recognize. We're going to have to recognize it too and unite with all of the struggles of oppressed people. We want to build the Uhuru movement here in San Diego. We haven't done a good job at winning Africans into the African Revolution. We're not a friendship club. We're revolutionary scientists. We don't believe in Uberism and superstitions and stuff like that. We want to build a revolution based on science. And it takes discipline to make a revolution. You can do a whole bunch of other things without discipline, but to make a revolution, it requires discipline, it requires tactics and strategies and a certain kind of revolutionary organization. As you can see, we're preparing to govern. When you saw all of those institutions up there, those are our institutions. And we intend to build the same kinds of institutions in the process of making revolution. Because guess what? What we've learned about every revolution is that winning the revolution is the easy part. The real problem is going to do what you're going to do once you win the revolution. So we have to learn how to govern in the process of making the revolution and running these institutions. That's very important for us. Thank you so much. Uhuru.
Thank you so much. Please another round of applause for the Chairman. Thank you to our speakers and thank you for coming out tonight. We have raised $2,054. Thank you to everyone who contributed. You can join the growing group of white people who are taking a stand in principle and material solidarity with the African working class. The Uhuru Solidarity Movement San Diego Branch is holding an introductory meeting this coming Sunday, October 23rd at 5 p.m. at Cafe Cabaret, 3739 Adams Avenue. So that's this Sunday, October 23rd, 5 p.m. We invite you to be there and join in solidarity. There's also an event coming up, Shine a Light on Hospitality, on Harbor Drive and 5th this Monday, October 17th at 6:30. So again, thank you for